About 6 years ago, in August of 2017 or 18, a new assistant coach, Clay Pergram, knew I was a photographer and asked if I wanted to do some photos at the hockey game. And it was their second game of the year against Middle Tennessee State. And I said, sure, why not? And from there on, for the next 2 years, I was their photographer and came on the road with them, rode on bus trips, made super long bus rides that I would love to forget, but it's a beginning experience that I never want to lose. I've kind of grown in positions. My favorite quote to tell people is I'm everything but a coach, because for 2.5 years I was just photographer, and then for about 1.5 years I was a photographer and running social media. So I'd be standing on the boards behind us doing photos, holding my phone in my hand, tweeting out what's going on. If there's a penalty, there's a goal, what's going on. So people at 2 a.m. on Twitter could pay attention to what's going on. And then the COVID season, when we didn't have a season, is when I became the play-by-play voice. And for the last 2 full seasons, I've been doing the play-by-play announcing for all the home, road, and sometimes playoff games. I'm not doing like the game day type tweets in the middle of what's going on. I'm more of the overhead of social media now. So I have a team below me who does all my postings and everything, and I just kind of guide them of what we're looking for. The one time I did take over was 2 years ago when we played Louisville, and Louisville tried to trash talk us. So I sent them a picture of their head coach who used to play for us and coach for us, and got him to stop tweeting us for a whole week. That was about the last time I've really had much control besides the overhead operations for social media. I don't have any interns with me on the broadcasting side. It's just myself and then a player who's not playing in that game. But for social media, I've got a team of 5 girls, 2 who do all my social media postings, 1 who does photos and sends them to the girls who post on Twitter, and then 2 graphic artists to control what we post in picture-wise. In the 55, 60 games I've done in the last 2 years, I'm the only one on the headset. It's just me for 3 hours talking to whoever is listening, and then the only time I have somebody with me is a player who's been scratched for the game running the camera. Sometimes I'm thankful to have players who've been kicked out, players who are injured want to jump on the mic with me, but the vast majority of the time it's just me who's been talking nonstop. I'm throwing in stats, I'm telling people what's going on in the stands, random things my eyes catch, dad jokes. So it's just me trying to make myself laugh for 3 hours. I've called at least 5 games where my voice has been completely gone, where I've either been sick or I use it a lot, because I like to think of myself as like Gus Johnson, so my voice is always super high and always like ready for something to be super exciting. So I'm always losing it constantly. So this season was our most successful season in the last 15 years. We won the most regular season games in our history. I think we went 26-5 in the regular season. I think the most in the regular season we ever won was 22 games. We made it to our conference tournament, which was in the middle of February, where we won the first round game, which was a step better than last year, and then we lost in the semifinals. We moved on to regionals, which is the opening round / first and second round of the NCAA tournament, where you have to win all your games to move on to the national tournament. And we beat UPenn, which is the University of Pennsylvania, which beat us last year to end our season. We beat them 13-3 in our opening game. And then we beat UNC, which we already swept previously this season back in September, to win the regionals for the first time since 2008. And we moved on to the national tournament in Boston, where we played 3 really good teams in University of St. Thomas, which was the 6th ranked team in the nation, University of Mary, who was the back-to-back defending national champions, and Bentley University from nearby, close to Boston, where we went 0-2-1. We got shut out against St. Thomas. We played a great hard battle against the defending champs in UMary, lost 3-1, and then we tied Bentley in the last game, in a game that really didn't matter since we were already eliminated from our pool play. That was the end of our road, but it was a good road. We didn't win any games at nationals, which is fine. We were all somewhat disappointed, but it was an experience. We know we're going to be back. We know that was our main goal this year, was make it to nationals or bust. We were close last year by making it to regionals. And when I graduated last year from UK, I was 50-50 on coming back for another round with the hockey team, but I started basically at the same time as this coaching staff did. Before the coaching staff took over, this team was 3-20, and hardly anybody was showing up and packing these stands. And then they took over, they got it back to a winning program, and they have always had this goal in mind, and I wanted to finish that goal because we were close last year. And I couldn't have made a better decision because it was our best season ever. We made it to nationals, and it was just an experience. Next year, now that people know we can make it to nationals, we can make a run for the title next year and make everybody pay the price for laughing at us for not winning a game this year. There's not scholarships, so I'm not really in on the recruiting side much, except for one of the assistant coaches texts me every so often that we got a new recruit. So there's different levels of hockey. You have like your top tier junior teams, which mostly go on to your NCAA 1, 2, or Division 3 teams. Then you have like your lower tier junior teams that you already have to pay to play for those teams, and you're just trying to get exposure. Those are the guys we try to draw after. One of the big guys we got from one of those lower tier junior teams was our captain this year, Gary Eastlack. He came from Northern Virginia and the Hampton Whalers. We just try to pull from guys like that. We try to look for some transfers. I know we have 1 or 2 transfers coming from the club Division I organizations this season upcoming. So it just kind of depends. It's just trying to find the right people who are willing to pay the money to play a club hockey team instead of trying to focus on their dream of playing NCAA, which for 90% of hockey players won't happen. It is the 5th time we've made it to nationals. It's the first time in 15 years we've made it. The last time we made it, which was 2008, was basically the same thing we did this year. We didn't make it out of pool play. In the early 90s, we made it to 3 out of 4 national tournaments. I think in 92, we were the runner-ups for the first ever national tournament deal they did, which is, I think, the first year they did a national tournament. So we were their first runner-up. But that was the last successful run we've had, was the early 90s. And the last time we made it to nationals was 2008. So this was, after years of going downhill, we finally have been uphill and finally crossed that hump and then make it at the nationals again. I know our head coach is always talking about how he was getting hit up by 50 or 60 different players that were already there at nationals in their own respective teams and divisions. All the time we've got people messaging our Twitter and Instagram account that I can see wanting to know how they can come in and play, how they can try out. So it's a continuing growing process, because some other organizations in our division are private. They can offer scholarships. Everything's paid for. So we're already at a little bit of a disadvantage, but if we can get those top tier players that are already trying to hit us up, nothing can stop us from catching up to them and trying to pass them later on. For some reason, I've always enjoyed sports broadcasting, from being little and playing sports video games and broadcasting my own video games, to doing it in high school, to somehow finding my way to doing it here. I have always had a dream of being the Chicago Cubs sports broadcaster, Pittsburgh Penguins sports broadcaster, because those are my favorite teams. Being here, it's just so hard leaving. I want to go on and expand, and I know I need to. It's just when you have a family in an organization like UK Hockey, it's just so hard to leave, because it's just a brotherhood, and once you find that, it's just tough. I do see myself leaving, because ever since being little and going to bigger and better cities than where I grew up in Danville, I've loved being in a bigger environment. But I know I'll always end up coming back to Lexington, because Lexington's beautiful. But I would love to go on and be in a Chicago or Pittsburgh, or I love San Diego, and I would love to be out there because the weather's beautiful and it's never bad like it is here. But it just kind of depends on where my mind is, because I'm all the time tossing and turning and having a tug of war of what I want to do, whether I want to stay or go out and achieve something. So it just depends day by day. as long as we have the coaching staff here that remembers me, they'll welcome me back with open arms. I've already thought about that, but this strain of UK hockey just keeps rolling. It's had 7 or 8 head coaches before the Pergrams have taken over. It'll have probably 7 or 8 more in the next 30, 40 years. The train will just keep moving, and if somehow I'm not welcome back because nobody here remembers me, then so be it. I put 6 years of blood, sweat, tears, and hours staring at my computer screen researching teams I'll never think about again. But I just know the last 6 years, and whether there's 1, 2, or 3 more after that, I put everything I had into it, and that's all I can ask for.